The rain hadn't let up for 2 days. Cold, biting sheets of it fell over the muddy main street of Harrow's Crossing, washing the dust from the boards and the blood from the gutters. When the whip cracked again, the sound cut through the downpour like thunder. A young girl screamed. Her voice was thin, but it carried, high and raw, over the sound of boots, shouts, and thunder. The sheriff's deputies didn't look up. Neither did the townsfolk crowded under awnings, watching from dry safety. At the center of it all stood Mira Dalton, her dress torn at the shoulder, her back striped crimson from the lash. Her daughter, no older than 10, clung to her skirts, sobbing into the folds of mud-stained fabric. 5 more, the man in the black duster growled, coiling the whip. That'll teach you to steal bread from my store. The girl stepped forward, voice trembling. She didn't steal. We were hungry. The man sneered, lifting the whip again, and that's when a deep voice broke through the rain. That's enough. The crowd shifted. A tall figure stepped into the street, Caleb Rourke, a rancher from the far ridge. He looked like a man carved from the same stone that built the mesas, rough beard, soaked hat brim shadowing his eyes. The storekeeper turned, annoyed. This ain't your business, Rourke. She's a thief. Caleb's boots splashed in the mud as he walked forward, every step deliberate. She's a woman in my town gettin' whipped while men watch. That makes it my business. Yours. The man laughed. You'll pay for her crimes, then? Caleb stopped a few feet away, meeting his gaze. Ain't no crime in hunger. He pulled his coat from his shoulders, a heavy oilskin slick with rain, and draped it over Mira and the child, shielding them both. The whip-holder's grin faded. You best walk away, Rourke. Caleb didn't move. The rain ran down his face, mingling with the red that streaked Myra's back. You put that lash down, he said quietly, or I'll make you. The silence that followed was deep enough to drown in. Then came the metallic sound of a revolver's hammer clicking back. Mira gasped. The girl clung tighter. Caleb's eyes never left the man's. The gunshot cracked across the street, but it wasn't Caleb's weapon that fired. The storekeeper's pistol had gone wide, his aim spoiled by a sudden shove. The slug buried itself in the mud inches from the child's bare feet. Caleb lunged forward, caught the man's wrist, and twisted until the gun clattered into the muck. The crowd gasped, but none dared move. Pick it up, Caleb said through his teeth, and I'll make you eat it. The man whimpered, clutching his wrist. He stumbled back, red-faced and trembling. Nobody defended him, not even the deputies. Caleb turned to Mira. Her shoulders shook beneath his coat, her breath coming in sharp, wet sobs. The girl stared at him with wide eyes, her lips trembling from shock. You're safe now, he said quietly. Come on. He lifted the woman easily into his arms, the girl following close behind, barefoot in the cold mud. As they passed, the townsfolk parted like ghosts. No one met his eyes. No one offered help. By the time he reached his horse tethered near the livery, Sheriff Granger stepped from the saloon, whiskey glass still in hand. What's this I'm hearin', Rourke? He drawled. You stoppin' a lawful punishment? Caleb didn't stop walking. Didn't look lawful to me. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. You can't just take a prisoner. That's obstruction. Caleb paused then, turning his head slightly. You want to call it that? Granger's gaze flicked to Mira and the child, both shaking, the coat clinging to them. He sighed, tossing the whiskey into the mud. Fine. You do what you want. But don't bring trouble to my town. Caleb said nothing. He lifted Mira onto the horse first, then helped the girl up before swinging into the saddle behind them. The trio rode out of Harrow's Crossing under a curtain of rain, leaving behind whispers and sidelong glances that would soon turn to gossip. By the time they reached the ridge road, dusk had fallen. The sky was the color of bruised steel. You don't owe us this, Mira said softly, her voice raw. Caleb kept his eyes ahead. Don't tell me what I owe. Not tonight. For a moment, nothing but hooves and rain. Then, faintly, from behind, came the echo of another rider. Mira twisted in the saddle, her face pale. Someone's following us. Caleb's hand moved to his revolver. Yeah, he murmured. And I reckon it ain't a friend. By the time the trail curved into the canyon pass, night had swallowed the ridge whole. The rain slowed, leaving only the hiss of wet brush and the creak of saddle leather. Caleb pulled the horse to a stop beside a fallen pine. We ride no further, he said, voice low. Too easy to track us by hoofprint in this mud. Mira slid down carefully, clutching her daughter close. The girl was shivering uncontrollably. Caleb crouched near a thicket, striking a match under his hat brim to hide the glow. The flame flickered, catching the edge of his face, hard, lined, and wary. He spoke without looking up. You got anyone in town who'd come after you? Mira shook her head. No. My husband, he died workin' the Dalton Ranch 3 winters back. I took in laundry, baked bread, but when the store stopped extendin' credit. She stopped herself, eyes glassy. Caleb nodded once, understanding. The sound came then, distant hoofbeats, steady and sure. Not a patrol. Not lost travelers. Someone tracking them. Caleb doused the flame and rose. Stay down. Don't make a sound. The riders appeared through the darkness, 3 of them, shadows against the dying rain. The one in front carried a lantern swinging from his saddle horn. Its glow brushed across his face, the storekeeper, bandaged wrist and all. Behind him rode 2 men with rifles slung loose. There, one hissed, pointing toward the ridge. Caleb's revolver was already in his hand. Get behind the log, he whispered. Gunfire tore through the night. Sparks leapt from stone. The girl screamed, muffled by her mother's hand. Caleb fired twice. One shot clipped a rider's hat clean off, the other sent the lantern spinning, crashing in the mud. Darkness swallowed everything again. Hoofbeats thundered away, then circled, flanking. Caleb reloaded fast, movements calm and practiced. You can still walk away, he called. Ain't worth dying over pride and a loaf of bread. The answer came in a single shot that grazed his shoulder. Myra's gasp caught in the dark. Caleb didn't flinch, just shifted, squinting into the black. When the wind changed, he caught their scent, gunpowder, wet leather, fear. He waited, patient as stone. Then, from behind him, a whisper. Caleb, he's comin' up the hill. Caleb turned sharply, revolver raised. But the figure rising out of the brush wasn't a rider. It was the sheriff. The sheriff lifted a hand, palm open. Easy now, Caleb. His voice was steady, but his eyes carried the weight of long nights and harder choices. Rain dripped from the brim of his hat. I ain't here to gun nobody down. Just want the truth before blood fills this canyon. Caleb lowered his revolver, but not by much. Then you best listen fast. Those men ain't huntin' justice, they're huntin' shame. That woman's been beaten and robbed enough. The sheriff's gaze flicked to Mira, who crouched with the child still trembling against her chest. Her face was half hidden in the shadows, but the bruises told their own story. I saw what happened in town, he said quietly. Couldn't stop it in time. He shifted his weight, exhaling through his teeth. They're sayin' she stole from the store. Caleb's tone sharpened. Ain't theft if a child's starvin'. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the rain dripping from the leaves, slow and heavy. The sheriff looked between them, the flickering lamplight from the fallen lantern dying beside his boots. Get the girl warm, he finally said. I'll handle the men. Caleb hesitated, unsure if he was hearing pity or a trap. But when the sheriff turned away, walking toward the ridge where the riders waited, there was something in his gait, old loyalty maybe, that kept Caleb from stopping him. Mira crouched by the fire pit and whispered, Why'd he help us? Caleb struck another match, shielding the flame with his hand. His voice came low, almost tender. 'Cause not every man out here's forgotten what mercy looks like. As the fire caught, warmth spread through the hollow. The child stirred, whispering something about her doll, lost in the mud back in town. Mira tried to smile, eyes glistening. Caleb watched her, the way her hands trembled, the quiet strength behind every breath. She looked up finally. You didn't have to do all this. Caleb's reply came after a long silence. Maybe I did. Outside, thunder rolled over the canyon like distant cannon fire. In its echo, faint voices shouted, the sheriff's among them. Then, a single gunshot. Mira flinched. Caleb stood, hand tightening on his revolver. Stay with the fire, he said, eyes narrowing toward the ridge. This ain't over yet. He stepped into the darkness, coat flaring in the wind. The ridge smelled of wet gunpowder and pine sap. The rain had thinned to mist now, that haunting kind of quiet after thunder, when the land seems to hold its breath. Caleb climbed slowly, boots sinking into the mud. Up ahead, the faint glow of a dying lantern painted the scene in weak amber. One man lay on his side, blood pooling beneath him. Another crouched over him, rifle shaking in his hands. And the sheriff stood between them, revolver drawn, coat torn at the sleeve. Put it down, Jed, the sheriff said. Ain't no justice in what you're doin'. Jed, the storekeeper, spat into the mud. She humiliated me. Whole town saw it. You think I'll just let her walk? Caleb stepped closer. She didn't humiliate you. You did that yourself when you whipped a mother in front of her child. The storekeeper turned, eyes narrowing. You! The gun lifted, but Caleb's shot came first, clean, sharp, echoing off the cliff. The storekeeper fell back, lantern light spilling across his boot. The sheriff didn't move for a moment. Then, he holstered his weapon and looked at Caleb with tired eyes. You just made yourself an outlaw again. Caleb holstered his revolver. Maybe. But I can live with that more than watchin' a man beat on a woman. A long silence stretched between them. Then the sheriff gave a single nod, a quiet understanding between two men long past redemption. Get her out of here, the sheriff said. Head north till you reach the Willow Creek station. I'll tell the town the others turned on each other. No one needs to know more than that. Caleb's jaw tightened. And you? I'll stay, the sheriff said. Someone's gotta make sure the story holds. By the time Caleb returned to the hollow, the fire had burned low. Mira looked up from where she sat with her daughter asleep against her lap. One look at Caleb's face told her enough. She didn't ask who lived or died. She just nodded once, a gesture of gratitude that said everything words couldn't. At dawn, they rode out. The horizon glowed pale gold over the mesas, the kind of light that makes even broken land look new again. As they crossed the ridge, the little girl stirred, pointing toward the rising sun. What do we call it, Mama? She whispered sleepily. Mira looked at Caleb, then at her daughter. Home, she said softly. We'll call it home. The wind carried their silhouettes into the morning haze, 3 riders against an endless sky. Final shot. Caleb's weathered coat draped across Myra's shoulders as they ride into the light, a single trail disappearing into gold.